This was crazy, by the way. So, just to preface, this is 11 races, the sample size of 11 races from Iowa through Vegas, I think. Briscoe edging out Blaney by 1 point. And remember, you can get up to 64 points. Larson, within striking distance, finishes in 8th, which is surprising as well, with 267. Elliott with 266, Bubba also with 266, and then rounding out your top 16, you have Brad K, Bowman, Priest, Reddick, SVG, and McDowell rounding out your top 16, which would be if you had to go to a playoffs. Mine obviously doesn't have that, but that's what you would be looking at.
Driving fast and feeling free on that asphalt lane. 4 wide at town a day, they ain't holding no chain.
Gordon front back country, and we can get Benny. Bars and umbrellas on bunch, paper is 19.
4 cars side by side in a wild thrill ride, with the roar of the engines leaving all doubts behind. As the wheels spin on, chasing dreams we can't hide. That's a car life where legends never die.
Greetings, Earthlings. It's just me and Austin here today, so I thought that I would throw out something wacky. We had a really nice episode planned. We were all cordially agreed that this was going to be our points system day, where we all construct our own point system, and then we all appeared on the podcast. Regular appearance on a Tuesday night at the same time, 9:30 time period, and it's just us two. How you doing, Austin? How's it going? Blueberry Pop-Tart, huh? Is that your favorite kind of Pop-Tart?
It is my favorite.
I mean, I like my strawberry Pop-Tarts. That's what I grew up on, but
I don't like all these newfangled flavors and stuff. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I like the s'more flavor. That's pretty good. But past that, I think you got your essentials. You got your strawberry, you got your blueberry, and then you got your cinnamon flavored. Those 3, you could live off those. But then you have like grape and all these weird ones.
They made one it was like a lemon blueberry.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a good combo. I mean, blueberry lemonade, so good. Very peak. I got both of their systems for us to talk about. Both of them. And we'll get talking about that here in a minute. There was a little bit of news this weekend/week. Well, a little bit extra sauce on top of the lawsuit queso dip that they've been building up for December, getting closer. Basically a week away, right? December 1st. So finally, we won't hear anything about it. It'll probably end up they'll settle like things stupid November 30th.
Well, 2 things popped up with the text messages. One showed NASCAR was shaking in their boots and afraid of SRX, the dirt racing superstar thing that was on ESPN for a little while and was gaining some decent traction. My parents actually went to one of the SRX races up in Eldora, which was they said was really fun. So NASCAR, some text messages were released saying how they needed to put a knife in SRX. It was cutting into viewership for Xfinity and Truck, and they were basically scared of it. So that was an interesting thing to see. And then second, some defamation against Childress, calling him some things that I can't say on this podcast, but also called him a backwoods hick, how he needed to be taken out back and flogged, how he just needed to retire. These are NASCAR executives that are talking about their owners, their fans, their teams in such a manner. And if you weren't behind Denny and front row and Michael Jordan now, I don't know how you can't be.
Can't stand behind anything you would say about Mr. RC, regardless. And this is coming from the guy to, I don't know what side he is on the podcast. He's either to my left, my right, up, or down. But this man does not like RCR as an organization. Doesn't like Austin Hill. Doesn't love, what'd you call RCR? Papa? Is that what you always call RCR? Grandpa. And doesn't like Austin Dillon for, illogical reasons, obviously. And
Reasons that have been established on this show.
but when you're going that hard against people and it's on a podcast, just in general banter, I get it. But when it's your NASCAR executive messaging, it's kind of rough. But it's also the extent of it's like I explained to one of my buddies that's also in the NASCAR. You have any like legal issues with this, you're going to have to hand over your documents, so your emails, your messages. And this very much could just been a group chat. Some of these are emails, but some of them show like Messenger or Instant Messenger or something like that of that platform. So this is essentially a group chat. So just think about all the wacky stuff you say in your friends group chat, from high school, wherever you are in life. And this is being put, throughout everybody now. So you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes. So it's tough to watch this happen. I've seen, some other stuff from the other side that's rough too. It's not just one-sided. But this kind of got to the point where we start mentioning Richard Childress, which obviously historic organization. Dalhart Senior drove for them. Kevin Harvick drove for them for majority of the career. Has been around for a while. It's just tough to see, and you can't really endorse it, obviously. But I can't wait till this is over. But now the problem is they've opened themselves up, like Austin said, a defamation lawsuit. If Richard Childress wants to go that way, it just encourages more yellow tape over everything, right? More lawsuit stuff. So
No one wins.
It's so frustrating. No one wins, and like you said, it's like you said in the group chat earlier, it's like probably the person that loses the most out of this is the fans, ultimately, because you're just making the sport look even worse.
Yeah, one thing that's also come out of this is how much MJ is pouring into 2311. Like, he's putting a lot of money into it. And there were rumors that were going around that MJ wasn't putting money into the company. He was just a face of it. He was just providing, the sponsorships and then the stickers for the cars. But no, he is pumping in a ton of money, as well as Denny, into this to not get anything out of the charter payout. So yeah, so people can stop with that myth because he's been contributing to this.
Thankfully, like we said, another week we won't necessarily have to worry about it too much more because at least we'll have the proceedings and we won't have the everything else that's going on, right? Alrighty, well, we are going to move on to our point system here.
I do now because I saw the reflection on your glasses.
Alrighty, here we go. It's a wheel.
I see that.
It's a random wheel with an advertisement on the side. So this will be whose point system goes first. I hope it's not me. I really don't want to start. Frick, it's going. Oh, it's me. Dadgummit. Such a shame. Such a shame. That's hilarious. Alrighty. So my point system is a little bit. It's more of a hybrid between everything. So this is my Cliff Notes version. So all drivers will compete in the full regular season. So that's never changed. Of course, when you're considering the playoffs, you're not considering your part-time drivers like your Jimmy Johnsons, your BJ McLeods. They obviously earn points, but when it gets to the playoff portion of the year, don't have to worry about it. Points are awarded each race as per the point system. There's no automatic playoff burst for winning a single race. Playoff qualifications determined purely by these cumulative points. So the win and you're in is no longer there. But you'll see kind of what I did in regards to this. So the top 16 drivers by cumulative season points advance to the quote-unquote playoffs. Points do not reset after the rounds. So you carry these points throughout the rounds. You don't start at 0 because I think that's absolutely stupid. Your progression is pretty much stagnant if you do that. And it kind of disregards the regular season. So we had the round of 16, 3 races, top 12 drivers, season points. So these will advance. And then the points carry over to the round of 12. That's 3 races. The round of 8 is also 3 races. But the championship for I determined should be 5 races. That maximizes the amount of races. You can have mistakes where you can essentially facilitate. If you have one bad race, you're not out of the playoff hunt. I feel like 4 it's possible for something like that to happen, especially if you're going to consider like a plate track or something. Throw that in there, like they've kind of talked about. I think 5 races is a good sample size. So obviously they're going to end at Homestead. I would say 2 intermediates. I think 2 intermediates is probably a solid choice. You have a short track, and you have a plate track, and then as much as I hate to say it, I mean, you have as many road courses that are on the NASCAR schedule. I feel like a road course race should be in the playoffs. But that's just my opinion.
I like getting rid of the win you're in. I do like that. Did you say what you would do? Like, is there any like locking in to playoffs or anything?
So whenever it comes to those last few races, so when it gets to that round of 16s, essentially the points lock off. So anybody that's below that 16th season points, they are no longer eligible for the playoffs, but they can still accumulate points, but they're landlocked. They're all fighting for 16th and below. So that way it gives the people that are higher up in points incentive to stay up there. Everybody wants to win a championship, but if you can just get into that round of 16, you can have potential to elevate your points position up even more so. So, because NASCAR, the way that it works is they pay out per where you are in the standings. This is where it gets kind of interesting. So I did a tiered victory point system. So a tiered victory point system, the winner of the race gets automatically 50 points. That is a lot. 50 points alone. That's not factoring in quote unquote playoff points. Second only gets 35. So that's a substantial difference. So this still incentivizes winning because winning is still important. Your drivers that win 5 to 6 races, they should be rewarded for this. So if you maximize the points that they can get just based upon that, that's important to me. So if you put second as 35, that's a big difference. That's a 15-point difference. We talk about how, from when we get to these cuts, 1 to 2 points difference can be big. I mean, look at Layden Riggs. He didn't make it in because of a tie, right? So second's 35, third is 30. So they go in increments of 5 there. And then once you get to fourth, it goes down to 26. So it goes down 4, fifth is 22, or sixth is 20th. And then after the top 6, it decreases by 1 point. So essentially the minimum that you can get for last place is 5 points. So there's a whole bunch of drivers that are going to get 5 points. And the reason that I did this is I feel like it gives incentive for the lower tier teams to still fight even more so. Because if they equal out with those 5 points, they got to figure out a way to elevate above so they just don't end up tied, which I'll get down to all my tiebreaker stuff next. Everything listed here. So first, 50. Second's 35. Third is 30. Fourth is 26. Fifth is 22. Sixth is 20th. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. It just progresses all the way down from ones once you get past that +2, +3 barrier. I played around with some instances of like, what if a driver drives from the back to the front, like they qualify really bad, but they have really good progression throughout the day. But then I was like, well, what if there's teams that sandbag for this? Like they qualify terrible, and then they're like, we're going to get more points if we just gain more positions. So I was like, don't really know how to do that, but I feel like that would be a definite good development, but I don't think that will happen. Even more of the win points go in. So the winner of the race, like I said, gets 50 points base, but they get an extra 10 points if they led the most laps for that race, if they won it. So if they dominate a race and they win it, I feel like they should get an extra incentive because that's hard to do, especially with the parity of these cars. And then an extra +10 if they sweep both stages and the race. So if they win all quote unquote 3 stages, if you include the last bit of the race. And then if they don't, just get +5 points. But these are not playoff points. These are just straight up points. All points are equal, right? So you don't have to sit there and be like, this guy's got 15 playoff points, but he's got 1,000 points. Every single point's the same. I feel like that's important, especially for, for the overall fan base, they can understand. Like, they can look at a number and see how many points it is, and like, I understand what that is. But with the current system where they got the playoff points, you gotta, especially if you have a younger generation and they're trying to understand everything, it could be tough to follow, you know? So, what's your overall thoughts with that? It's a little bit different.
I don't know if I like the steep drop off from
That's
50 to
fair.
35, because I think it kind of takes like if you finish second and have a really good day, I feel like that takes away, like, let's say you win a stage or win both stages, and then you get second, but even though you had a really fantastic day, you only get like 35.
Well, if they won both stages, they get 45 points in second.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Stage winners get plus 5 points per stage one.
Do you award any stage points from second through 10th?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Just your stage winner. Because those stage points are just playoff points, essentially. This, like I said, if NASCAR is really going in and being like, win is the most important thing, this is the way that they should do it. All right. Another curveball here. Instead of doing the fastest lap as an extra point, at the end of each race, the driver with the highest official average speed throughout the entirety of the race gets a +1 rather than that. I think that's more important because we've seen a couple of instances where drivers come back out from the garage and, I mean, they're able to make alterations to cars that wouldn't necessarily pass tech, but where they're in the very back, they don't have to qualify under tech really. So I think this just does a better job because sometimes even the fastest car doesn't win the race. We've seen it multiple times with the way the air is, the aero. So a tiebreaker, if average speed is identical, drivers with the higher finishing position wins the bonus. So obviously, if there's a guy that's tied, that's got the fastest average time, the other guy is there, it's whoever has the highest finishing position that day would be able to get that extra point. And like I said, all this full carryover, you don't have to worry about playoff points or anything. There is no reduction or reset at any start of the round. Cumulative points will determine the champion. And then tiebreakers. I thought this was important given what has happened to lane rigs this year. The most wins would be the first tiebreaker. I feel like that's self-explanatory. If it comes to another one, most top 5 finishes throughout the year, that should be number 2. Most stage wins, I put it at 3. Most laps led for the year, 4. Because that's just showing your overall strength as a driver throughout. And if it comes down to 5th, it's the highest finishing position in the most recent race. That should be the last consideration. To be eligible for the best average speed bonus, the driver must finish the race on the lead lap. Feel like that's important. Time penalties are automatically reflected in the average speed, so if they have to come down pit road for a penalty, those laps will be calculated within. And then a few extra things. I said that all exhibition races should have at least 1 to 2 points considered for a win. It won't be a dramatic amount. I don't think it's something that has to, be crazy, but it just, with these races, like, does anybody really want to get up and watch the Clash if there's really no points other than, it's just bragging rights, right? So I put the Clash, the duels, the All-Star Race Open, and the All-Star Race as getting +2 points. So it's nothing crazy, just small cumulative things. So that is all the rules that I had set up for my point system. Final 8 that we had this year. So that would be Logano, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and of course Kyle Larson, right? So before I put in the bonuses, Christopher Bell was first. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody because regular season points, if you look at the Winston Cup points, this is just him winning the races. So the +50 points or whatever. Next would be Kyle Larson with 725. Then you have Denny Hamlin at 723. So really close between those two. Chase Briscoe would be at 706. Ryan Blaney was at 703. William Byron was at 658, so that's a 60-point difference right there. Chase Elliott was only at 604. And Joe Logano only had 516 points in the final 8. So you compare 758 to 516, there ain't no chance Logano's making it into probably the top 16, to be honest with you. If you add the bonuses, this would be my champion with 795 points would be Kyle Larson. He would beat Christopher Bell by only 15 points. Christopher Bell did not win many stages this year, and that ultimately was his downfall. Denny Hamlin was at 753. Briscoe's at 751. Blaney is next at 748. They're all super close. You got Byron at 718. Chase Elliott goes from 718 to 611. And then finally, Joe Logano with like 534 points to end the year. So that's how I did mine. I wanted to make it just a little bit different because I kind of knew where everybody else was going to go with theirs. But I think this is a good balance between providing maneuverability for these lower tier teams. So when they end up getting higher up on the chart, it means more. You know, when Cody Ware finishes like 5th, it means a lot for him. And it eliminates the win you get in thing, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. I just think it was a good balance overall. But that's just overall, that's what I did. You know, it's a little wonky, but a little bit different.
It's the point of us doing this, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right, so I'm going to eliminate myself from the wheels, so therefore I cannot be on there again. This is my plastic fort, boy.
Don't clap for that. It's computer.
Thankfully, Blake shared his. Alrighty. So there was no points calculated in his at all. He has changed the win and you get in to you win 2 races and you automatically get in. So this prevents Harrison Burton or anybody. I love how he just throws Harrison Burton right under the bus there. Prevents Harrison Burton's, and if someone at Daytona wins an upset, they don't overtake someone who had a decent season. So like Martin Truex that missed the playoffs when he was 4th in the overall standings one year. Wins matter more, arguably. Consistency is rewarded. 16 drivers, 1 or less wins based on points. Wins count for 60 points instead of 40, so he did the increase as well. 10 playoff points instead of 5 for stage wins. Playoffs is a 10 race chase.
Okay, so the chase format.
Yep. Among the 2 or more race win drivers is based on who wins the most as being the first seed. That's pretty much common sense. Stage wins count for 15 extra points and 2 extra playoff points. 4 regular season races, well, there'll be double points.
Wait.
4 regular season races will be considered double points. 1 super speedway, the Daytona 500, reclaims the spectacle. 1 road course, San Diego. I can hear the SVG haters right now, aka Kent. So that'd be 120 points in his system. Just so you guys know, it's 60 points is what he wants for a race win from the 40. He's doubling it for these races. Spring Martinsville, he said, should be doubled, and Chicagoland should be the 1 intermediate double. Okay. Let's digest that because big bomb coming up next after this. I don't know about doubling from 60 to 120 points. Yeah, and he says that, but what about playoff points? If someone wins the stages and you get the +5, are you going to double the +5 for that too? There's all kinds of, because it just says 4 regular season races where there's double points. So it doesn't dignify if it's just the regular finishing points or if it's milestone. So like, for instance, the fastest lap, instead of getting +1, you get +2 points instead, you know? Like, I don't know about that personally. Plus, I feel like I don't know about 4 races, maybe 1, you know, 1 wild card race. Sure. Daytona 500, you want to make that more of an incentive. Makes sense. It's kind of it will reclaim the crown jewel. esque that it used to be. And when they win the Daytona 500, it's won the Daytona 500, right? But it also goes back to, well, he got double points. So it automatically goes to the playoffs again. So it doesn't really reclaim the spectacle to me, if that makes sense. It's another win and you get in kind of type of energy. It's just not that. It's just double points.
It's not my favorite. No. I think 4 double points weekends is a bit much. I appreciate him trying to find variety in different tracks, and I get, he's trying to add flair to the schedule a little bit. It's like, hey, it would maybe increase attendance. Like, hey, this is a double points weekend. This is a big race. But once again, it feels like what we're trying to get away from, and that's gimmicks. It feels gimmicky. Like if a driver lucks into a win at Daytona, that's 120 points. If SVG whoops the field, that's 120 points for SVG. Brad, I think if we're not going to go have the full season points, I think the next best option is the chase, because you're taking 10 cumulative races, and of those 10, and how everybody does that's in the chase, the 16 that are in the chase, whoever's the most consistent across those 10, that's your champion. I do think that's the most fair. It does set up for some pretty exciting moments historically. So, I mean, there's good and bad, I think, with this system. I think more bad than good, though, in my opinion.
All right, just wait. Just wait. The All-Star race pays triple points. If you have one win already, the All-Star win would consider being your second win and you automatically get into the playoffs. That, I swear to you, that is what is written here. There's more. The championship race is going to double the points of that. So instead of the 4 regular season races, technically the All-Star race is a regular season race if you're going to count points like that. So 5 double or triple. And then the championship race itself is going to be, I mean, I guess he's banking on Kyle Larson winning so he can win back-to-back championships, right? He said based upon what he thinks the championship would be close between Bell, Hamlin, and Larson with those stipulations.
Sources, trust me, bro.
Math. What? What is this? What is math? I think overall it could be a good system. I think it just needs to be tweaked a little bit. The winning you get in, the 2 wins would be a good qualifier compared to 1. But then also, and I say this as a guy that likes SVG, he's going to win probably multiple road course races next year. So that's one thing that will irritate just normies, normal NASCAR fans. The double points, I would probably, if you're going to do it or you're going to triple it, I would just put 1 race. So I would triple the All-Star race or double the All-Star race or something like that, if you're going to do it. I still think like a system like mine where it's like +2, +3, it's nothing crazy, but to be able to consider the All-Star races a win for the second win for the winning you get in, I don't know about that personally. I mean, honestly, to me, I don't think it's a close championship at all. I think that's probably...
Well, if he's tripling it, then Bell.
Yeah. Which Bell was already locked into the playoffs at that point because he had 3 wins. But you also got to remember that the Dover would be the All-Star race. So it's probably Denny Hamlin. We're being quite frank with you. So probably Denny Hamlin wins your championship. It's not even close. So maybe he's going for that redemption factor. He's team bandwagon this year for 2026.
Yeah, I don't want to get run over.
That's right. All righty. Well, yep.
Yeah! All right.
Just the random guy go, woo!
Let me preface this. I would say I watch a wider variety of motorsports than everybody here on the pod. I think that's a fair assumption to make. I watch NASCAR, Formula 1, MotoGP. I even like rally cars sometimes. So I've seen a lot of different point systems. And I think the organization that has the best point system is Formula 1. Formula 1 has the best point system. It rewards wins, it rewards consistent driving, and it punishes mistakes heavily. And so you have to be consistent, and you have to watch how many mistakes you make throughout the year. Yes, with the Formula 1 system, you have moments like 2023 where Max Verstappen won like 25 out of the 27, however many, I think it was like 20 out of 22 races. But then you don't have moments like 2021 where it literally came down to the last lap of the last race between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, racing it out for the championship. And the thing is, if Lewis won the race or if Max won the race, people may have been ticked on either side that their guy didn't win. They could not say this guy didn't deserve to be the champion or this guy didn't deserve to be the champion. Max won 20 out of 22 races. Nobody said he didn't deserve to win the championship. Now, granted, NASCAR has an advantage over Formula One is there is more parity, or parity, P-A-R-O-D-Y, as Blake calls it, between the cars. There's more parity.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, there's more parity between the cars. In Formula One, it varies greatly. That's why Max won as many races as he did in 2023. So, with that being said, my point system is based, not entirely, but it's based similarly off of Formula One. There's no playoffs. There's no chase. It is a full season points, and I'll get into the specifics. So first, base finishing. First place gets 40. Second place gets 38. Third, 36. Fourth, 34. 5, 32. And it drops down by 2 until you get down to the top 10. So if you get a top 10 finish, that's 22 points base for you. After that, it drops off. If you finish outside of the top 30, you get no points. No points for you. No base points. Unless you win a stage or, if you get some stage points or whatever, stage points will remain in this system. But that's how it shakes out. Whoever leads the most laps in the race gets 3 points. Stage points remain the same. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Through the finishing order of each stage. Those are added to your race total at the end. So you can have that. 1 point. I'm bringing back the 1 point for a lap led. Bringing back a leading lap. If you lead a lap, you get a point. I think that there should be a reward for that, like we had back in the Winston Cup Series. And you get 1 point for the fastest lap. So I think the max you can walk away with in a race is 64 points. That's what you can walk away with in a day. Here's where mine is a little different, where you are punished. If you DNF, you lose 3 points. Honestly, I think it could be a little bit more than that. But if you DNF, whether that is your fault of wrecking, whether you get caught in a wreck, whether you have a mechanical failure, you lose 3 points.
Rest in peace, Ryan Blaney. He had like 16 this year or something stupid.
But the system rewards consistency and it punishes inconsistency. If the race ends under weather, half the points. If they make it halfway, like think of the Coke 600, it ended right after halfway. If the race makes it halfway and it gets rained out, you get half the points. If you make it 75%, you get 75% of the points. So it's staggered for that. I also have an idea of something I would like to add into several times throughout the year, because Formula One does this. I think it's good. It brings extra entertainment. I would have it for select tracks, but they have sprint weekends where several times throughout the week or throughout the racing calendar, I think about 6 or 8, I can't remember. They do a sprint race where they're given a little bit of points. They run a smaller race and points are handed out based on who finishes. The way I think I would have it staggered, I would have it ran at tracks under a mile and a half, I would say. And the way I would have it work is based off your qualifying order, 1st through 20th to get to race in the sprint, based off who qualifies 1st through 20th, and the order flips. So whoever finishes 20th starts first for the sprint race to try to help kind of balance out the points in a sense. All right, so what I did, well, let's just stop there. What do you think so far? I've rattled off a lot.
The only thing I see an issue for, and this is just me overall looking, I like the DNF thing. That's smart. I like the rain out and, weather implications and all that. That's really smart. But the one thing that I would nitpick at this point would be the 0 points for like 30th and below, because those lower tier teams, right? I don't know about dropping down to 0. I get what you're saying, though, for sure. Those teams are literally NASCAR teams are losing money, but they are pouring out money at the current point. And the only way that they can recuperate any of this money past, the TV broadcast deal and anything is to climb higher in points. And it's tough to do that when you're looking at multiple 0 weekends in a row. The only time that they're going to even be able to throw, 15, 20 points on the board is probably on a plate track. So that would be the only thing, and that's just me looking at the sport from like a wider point of view, more than like just strictly like your big boys like your Joe Gibbs, the little tiny organizations that really have to fight. Because if we're looking at this playoff system, the way that NASCAR is going to do it, whatever they result in, is all 3 series are going to have to follow this. And then you kind of remove, a lot of lower tier teams and their maneuverability and their ability to participate in the sport on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I could add, I consider doing like 5 past 30. Like you get a base of 5 points.
Yeah.
Maybe not having guaranteed points going into a weekend would throw more incentive into teams to do what they can. And I know some teams are fighting. They're up the creek without a paddle in a boat some weekends. But yeah, I could see that. All right, let me share my screen so I can show how the points have shaken out. This was crazy, by the way. So just to preface, this is 11 races, the sample size of 11 races from Iowa through Vegas, I think. Yeah, Vegas, I think. So about 11 races. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Briscoe edging out Blaney by 1 point at the end of that 11 race stretch from Iowa of last year through Vegas of this year. And remember, you can get up to 64 points. So you have Bell here in 3rd. He's within striking distance. Byron, he's within striking distance. Larson, within striking distance. Logano would need a race or 2. Hamlin surprisingly finishes super far back in the system with 296 points. Busher finishes in 8th, which is surprising as well, with 267. Elliott with 266. Bubba also with 266. And then rounding out your top 16, you have Brad K, Bowman, Priest, Reddick, SVG, and McDowell rounding out your top 16, which would be if you had to go to a playoffs. Mine obviously doesn't have that, but that's what you would be looking at. So yeah, I thought that was interesting how that kind of shook out there at the end. You had about 5 drivers kind of right there in the hunt, but I was surprised. Briscoe was the one who came out on top after all was said and done. Believe it or not, it was actually Larson who was in first place for a good bit until I added in Iowa Watkins Glen. And with this system, he finished last at Watkins Glen, and he finished like 28th at Iowa. And so those killed him in points. But it shows just how in that stretch, we talked about how consistent Briscoe was over the course of the playoffs, and then Blaney as well turned it on right then as well. I mean, there's a reason why he was in the championship 4. So yeah, that's my playoff system. I don't know if you had any thoughts on how anything that surprised you with how the point system shook out.
Not really with the sample size that you kind of went with from the Iowa to Las Vegas. It made sense because Briscoe was really hot during that period. But if you would have done it from Iowa to the end of the year, I think they'd be a little bit different of an outcome. I think Briscoe wouldn't have won the point system overall because him and Hamlin both had a lackluster last few races too that really hurt them. They finished last or close to last in a lot of those races. Yeah, I like it. It's different. You incorporated different elements of racing, which is always nice. It's traditional-esque without the playoff system, but yet it's kind of got its built-in playoff system in its own way because it just comes down to the points. It's kind of How mine is, in a way, the only reason I have the playoffs kind of built into it is because it's just kind of ingrained in sports the way that sports world is now. Especially if you look at it from the like American side of sports, it seems like that's more important to us. You know, college football playoffs. You got the World Series. You got, well, of course, MLB as well playoffs. You got Super Bowl plus all the qualifications to get into that. I mean, finals. I mean, every single massive American base, they have a playoff system. So I feel like that's why F1, they're able to kind of get away with it, because they're not just centered in America, right? They do it across different. So it works out good for them. But I mean, it could go either way for sure. Who was the guy that you said that won that many races that year? I had it ready. It's the first thing I thought of when you mentioned his name, and I was like, I gotta wait. I gotta figure out a way to get this in here. It's like
Who's a better driver than Larson, by the way?
yeah, that's what some people say for sure. Well, let me go over here. This is going to be a really interesting wheel spin. I wonder who's going to win this wheel spin. Here it goes.
Who's it going to be? Oh my gosh!
It's good. That guy is just randomly. His is rather short. Regular season points are the same as normal. The only adjustment would be eliminate the playoff points. They are the same points as awarded for stage wins. I think what he's trying to say there is get rid of playoff points is what he's trying to say. Just make it all baseline points, which I think you did. I did. I don't think Blake did. I think Blake still kept the playoff points.
Double it!
Triple it, baby. The postseason will be a 10-race chase format. The only difference being there are no stages in the postseason. So he gets rid of stages in the postseason. The races will be from green flag to end of the race, rain out, checker flag, whatever. So that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. It feels like you're running one set of rules for 3/4 of the year, and then you change it for the 10 races at the end of the year. No automatic qualifiers, top 10 regular season points, plus 2 wildcard drivers. Drivers with the most wins, not in the top 10, between 10 and 30th. And points qualify as quote unquote wild card drivers. So the win and your get in is eliminated. That's what I get by the no automatic qualifiers. Top 10 regular season points. That's self explanatory. Plus 2 wild card drivers. Drivers with the most wins, not in the top 10. And between 10th and 30th in points. So that would be like your SVG this year. He won almost as many races as Hamlin won. So I think what was it, 5 races this year? So he would be in the playoffs and that, which Kent would hate that, realizing that now. He'd be like, screw that system. It's a terrible system. Blah, blah, blah. Who would be the next driver? Look, most of your drivers that win based upon the qualifications be already in the top 10 points at that point. I guess maybe a Chase Elliott. I don't know if he would have made it just straight up points because he won 2 races, right? He won Atlanta and he won Kansas. So, is there anybody else that I'm forgetting? I'm gonna look at owner's points. That'd be easier to tell because Logano only got 1. Yeah, I think it would be Chase Elliott because he had 2. And I don't know if Chase would make it in the regular season standings in the top 10. He was 8th in overall. But then if he doesn't, there's a whole bunch of drivers that only won 1 race. So he would probably need to define what would be a tiebreaker between all. So probably like top 5s or something. And each driver begins the postseason with 5 additional bonus points per race won. So he says think playoff points, but no stage wins. So essentially just 5 points. So really when they win a race, they get an extra 5 points, basically. So I think in his point system, wins NASCAR now are 40 points, right? And if you win the race, you get 45 points. But he's saying it only appears during the playoffs. So like when it's playoff time, then you add the +5. So I feel like that directly, it's counterproductive. You know, if SVG wins 5 wins, why should he have to wait to get the +5 points when he gets in the playoffs? you might as well just do the +5 when he wins the race to make it 45, which you'd just be making a win 45 at that point, right? The driver with the most points accumulated throughout the final 10 race stretch wins the championship. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it works out, I guess. The only thing you'd really have to worry about is a driver just absolutely tears it up in the last 10 races and then just comes out of the woodwork and wins the championship. Then you're really not rewarding the best driver overall throughout the year necessarily. Even though that they're in that top 12 of drivers, those 10 are definitely going to be the drivers that are the ones that should be in the chase, and the 2 would be ultimately probably the drivers that wouldn't be able to get that many points anyways. So I don't know. Interesting concept, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think basically it's just Winston Cup points or standardized regular points at the current situation. You don't consider stage wins, I guess, because he never said anything about that. He said got rid of playoff points, so
If
it
you're
would
not
just
if
be
you're not going to count stage wins, then why have stages anyway?
yeah, that's true. And then you eliminate them during the playoffs, the 10 races. So you might as well just get rid of the stages ultimately throughout the year. Either keep the stages in the championship 10 races, or I don't know, keep them, throughout the whole year? Question mark. He didn't give a lot to elaborate on with this, but I think he was in a hurry. He's been packing to go to Thanksgiving weekend. So, I mean, just overall thoughts. I think we all brought some interesting perspectives to the table. Some I would definitely consider implementing in my playoff system, like the DNF thing. I honestly consider that in my system for sure. That's smart. Plus the rain out, I thought that was an interesting perspective. I like that because why reward the full distance of a race if it's a rain out in regards to points? That makes a lot of sense.
I couldn't really flesh that out because we didn't have any rainouts this year.
True. I mean, you'd have to look at it like a race like Justin Haley winning the Summer Daytona race. Can't remember what year that was when he drove for Spire. The race that Kurt Busch should have won, but he pitted for some reason. Pulled a Mark Martin moment. I'm trying to think of things I could take from Blake and Kent's ideas and put them in my own, but they kind of don't fit real well.
They're still kind of holding on to a playoff-ish kind of. Kent's trying not to, but he kind of is at the same time. And Blake is kind of is trying to hold on to the playoff format.
Yeah. And in mine, I said it's a playoff format with the 16, but I mean, ultimately, it's being calculated by regular season points. It's kind of like a throwback to Winston Cup points, but yet you're still adding, incentives to wins, incentives to milestones like most laps led, stage wins, which I mean, personally, I know this is controversial, but I enjoy stages. I think that, especially for the mindset of younger adults, it's good because I'll speak personally, I have a tough time focusing in on something that's doing the same thing over and over. So I think overall it's great for quality of life of racing. Yeah, you could argue cautions, you'd have more cautions if you ran overall stages, sure, but I don't know. I think that if we took R2 between me and you, and we took R2s and merged them together, I think ours would mesh better. And if you merge Kent and Blake's together, they would merge. They wouldn't rub up and against each other. They kind of formulate together. Where if we added one of their policies to ours, it would kind of be counterproductive. Yeah, I think we all brought an interesting perspective. I wish the other two were here so we could ask, questions personally. We're kind of just sitting here in hindsight, reading it and being like, it's an interesting perspective. I wish I could have asked him about that.
It would have been helpful to hear their perspective and maybe flesh out some of the things they're mentioning.
For sure. But ultimately, I think we did a good job. I think that NASCAR could probably tune into this podcast, choose a couple of these ideas, and we might be able to make a pretty good playoff system / point system.
What we could do is hold on to these and then track them through next season and see how it shakes out through a full season.
Yeah, for sure. I've already built an Excel file for mine. or Google Sheet or whatever. I can share it here. I know you shared yours. I just didn't even think about it. There, here we go. But I got all the races. I mean, I calculated all the races up from season beginning to the end. And then I got to the point where I was doing the season total for everybody, but I kind of ran out of time. I also took the drivers that are part-time drivers, like an Allgaier and Alfredo, a Castroneves, Fincham, and all them. Leg actually had 40 points. She ran so many, dude. But yeah, I have a whole document, so I could just, copy and paste everything to a sheet two and just track it next year. I'm sure you could do the same thing. I think we'll do that. And then I have the Clash and the two duels. I counted those as wins for the 2-point extras for Bubba and Cindric. And then Hocevar won the North Wilkesboro Open, so I gave him 2. Then gave Bale 2 for the All-Star race. But yeah, I have all the math done too. I just ran out of time to calculate the season totals today. So it wasn't like I was sitting here doing nothing. But I really tried. Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you what here. I'm going to build us another wheel. Wheel of Fortune. Spin the wheel, then I will explain what we shall do with the wheel. We're getting all fancy around here. Hopefully it's not me. I will. He's not here. Okay. So what I have to do, and what we're going to do next week, is I'm going to choose what you're laughing.
Just you're trying to give it to somebody else, and it ends up on you.
We'll do it as a cycle of 4. It may not be what we do every week, but it will be what we do for next week. I'm going to choose one NASCAR race that we will take sometime throughout the week, and we will sit down and watch it, probably in spurts for us, and we'll just make notes of it, and we'll just talk about it, kind of like a retrospective of NASCAR, right? All right, I'm going to pick the 2011 Coke 600 as my race. And I'm going to make sure it's on YouTube so we can watch it. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving this weekend, so we're going to be focused on spending time with our families, just as you guys should be if you're listening. Enjoy that time. Just enjoy all the extra time that you have with your family and the ones that you don't get to see all the time. And cherish it all. So we're going to watch the 2011 Coke 600, and we're all going to take notes, stuff that we like throughout the race and different elements. I know that there will be heartbreak for a couple of people that watch this race. I just want to tell you guys have a good Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you guys next week. Come on.